All right. Can you guys hear me okay now? I think I got it figured out. And thank you. Aaron, thank you. Everyone that's saying no sound, thank you. Can you guys hear me now? Are we good? Linda, you are missing a funny story. I had so much. Oh, good. You can hear me now. Great. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, anyway, so I wasn't telling a funny story. I was talking. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate that. What I was talking about was the fact that we had a wonderful weekend. We've had some really cool mornings and some warm afternoons, and this trend's going to continue for the next couple of days before things start to change. But there are some changes coming our way in November. Obviously, things change in November, but we can see them in our weather crystal ball. But until then, my goodness, has it not just been perfect? So anyway, getting back to it, I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. We got the kids outside. We went for a hike today, and they were tired like halfway through, and we realized we were on like a 2 mile loop, which for mommy and daddy, not a big deal because we're runners, but for the kids, they were really struggling about halfway through. But the fall foliage getting going, it's just that time of year. It really is wonderful. We had 76 degrees today. We started at 42 yesterday. We were at 71 degrees. So I was saying it all week. This was the best weather weekend of fall. And I'm still sticking by that. Next weekend doesn't look too bad. We'll share it with you. But overall, just what a great set of days here that we've had. And that will continue, all right, over the course of the next few days before we get a cool shot later on this week. All right, let me dive in just real quickly because I don't want to waste your time. We're going to get to the extended forecast almost immediately. I want to thank our sponsors real quick. I'll breeze through them, but please give them some love. They're all local to Northwest Indiana. They're all just awesome folks that I put my name behind. FBI buildings. They do pole barn construction. They've done over 20,000 of them in the Midwest. They have plans that they can give you if you want one on your property. If you have a commercial business and you need a pole barn, these things are beautiful and they do great work. They also renovate existing pole barns. Maybe someone else did that and you need some help fixing that up. FBIbuildings.com, place to go. Meals on Wheels here in Northwest Indiana. They're just the best. I mean, I grew up knowing about Meals on Wheels. Our church has done stuff with them. And you can too. They're actually looking for volunteers. And what they're asking of me to ask you is that if you have any spare time on your hands and you want to give back to your community, this is one of the great ways to do it. They need people to deliver meals to people that need it. They've got everything set for you. They've got the route set for you, and you get to go and deliver smiles, basically. I mean, you're going to change someone's life. You're bringing food, which is love. I mean, does it get any more powerful than that? So if you're looking for something like that, please contact Faith. I'm going to give you the number here, Faith's number, and you can go back and rewatch this if you don't get it the first time. But contact Faith. Her number is 219-756-3663. And again, they're looking for volunteers, a couple hours a day. It doesn't even have to be every day. All right. Any hours that you can give would be great for Meals on Wheels of Northwest Indiana. But Faith's looking for that there. Okay. PSA, that's our public service adjusters. They're amazing. Basically, if you have an insurance claim, don't go to your insurance company, go to them first. All right. And what they do, they're local licensed insured adjusters. They will take your claim and they will come in, take pictures of it, document it, and they'll send everything to your insurance company and say, hey, this is what this person needs. And they won't take no for an answer, and they'll get you more money than you get if you go to your insurance company. And the most important thing is you don't have to deal with any part of your claim. They do all of it. And they're not a nuisance. They come out right away. They're not like your insurance company. So they're just great. Publicserviceadjusting.com is a place to go for that. Tigerplumbing.net, our favorite Northwest Indiana plumbers. Just awesome plumbers. I mean, plumbers are usually just plumbers, right? Not Tiger Plumbing. They're just wonderful to work with. So many of you say you've used them. They're professional, courteous. You could schedule online or on your phone. And you can even take a picture of the problem. If a pipe's leaking, you can take a quick video of it before you shut your water off. You can send it to them, and then they'll know exactly what the problem is, and they come out for free. Tigerplumbing.net, place to go there. Minogue.life is our website for the wonderful, confusing world of Medicare, Medicaid, life insurance, all that stuff. It's a mess, and there's new rules coming this next year that are going to impact a lot of you. So someone is there, thankfully, that can take care of all this. His name is Michael, and his name is Michael Minogue. And he has just done an amazing job sorting through all of this. He's an expert at this, and he knows exactly how to get you what you need in terms of life insurance. So many people are paying too much for it. Some people don't have enough of it. And unfortunately, it's kind of similar to preparing for a winter storm or severe storm. when the time comes, it's a little bit too late, right? You want to prepare ahead for that. So he's doing consultations right now. So many of you have used him already and love him. He'll sit down, he'll come up with an individual plan and say, this is what you need. You have too much of this. Let's put together this kind of package, and he'll sort through for you. And he does a great job. Super nice guy. Minogue.life is the place to go there. Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Valparaiso. That's our car dealership. That has been with us for almost 3 years now. They're just fantastic as well. They've got new Jeeps ready to go. 4-wheel drive season is upon us soon. And they're ready to go for you. Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.com. Finally, last but not least, my favorite, Kate Cusack with Ruoff Mortgage. She's amazing, first of all, but she also is your local lender here in Northwest Indiana for all your mortgage needs. She says if you want to refinance as rates start to come down a little bit, we can do that. If you're looking for a new home, she can do that as well. And she's super prompt. She's professional. Everyone loves her. She'll guide you, support you every single step of the way. If you're a first-time home buyer, there's a lot of questions that go with that. And she knows how to sort through the garbage and get you right to the point and get you the house you need. Again, to contact her, she's on Facebook. Well, we're on Facebook. That's great. It's Kate Cusack Home Loan Girl. You can search her on there, or you can text her 219-775-6645. Again, Kate Cusack for Ruoff Mortgage. She is local, and people love her, and she loves region weather. And I'll tell you, I'm a big fan of that. People that like the weather. So reach out to her if you guys are looking for a new home or even a remortgage. All right, let's dive into the forecast. Let's talk about, and Aaron, I see your comment in there. Let's talk about Halloween, all right, because we need to know what kind of costume to throw the kids in. We'll see what happens. And then Tom says, boy, you guys are hot off the start here. Tom says, this is La Nina. I'm loving it. Yeah, Tom, boy, we're jumping right into that real cold winter we're going to get, right? You know, and here's the thing to remember. Winter in late fall, it takes its time getting here, right? Sometimes we get hit in the face early, and we can get an October snow. We can get 2 October snows. Sometimes it waits for November, and sometimes we have a quiet October, November. But the way things have been trending last, couple years, really last 5 or 6 years, it's been more mild. It really has, and it seems like everything's kind of delayed, where it takes its time getting into winter, where it's Christmas time by the time we get our first real decent snow. January, February, cold, and then it seems like winter kind of lasts a little bit longer into spring. It kind of feels like everything shifted, and that's just the last couple of years. We can't look at the snapshot of the last 4 or 5 years and say, hey, this is the way it's going to be from now on, but that's kind of the trend, all right? And as a result of that trend, we're kind of continuing that this year, and that we're above average, and we're heading into fall, and it still feels like late summer around here, right? We had a little cold hit this week, but overall, we're back to this warmer air again. And that's kind of where we'll start. There are some signs that things change in November, and I'm talking early November, which isn't far off. And there's a couple little hits of cool here and there. But you'll see here in the forecast. I'll dive into it, but it's not bad for this time of year. Could be a lot worse, right? You'll see out in the tropics. This is Oscar. Oscar's a hurricane down just east of Cuba and Hispaniola. Oscar's not going to be a threat to U.S. mainland. But it is going to head eventually off towards the north as it gets kind of pulled away with this jet stream, this little system coming in. And it should stay either a weak hurricane or a strong tropical storm as it heads into the Bahamas. So the reason why I show you that, a lot of people do cruises this time of year. They're risking hurricane season, although it's starting to dwindle. But the Bahamas are going to get hit by this. Just a lot of rain and some wind from this. Not a huge catastrophic event, but there is a hurricane down there. So keep that in mind. All right. In terms of our local pattern here, I feel like every week I'm saying this, the jet stream is going up in Canada and it's going way over us. And so we don't have really any driver of weather systems moving through here, which is okay. It means quiet weather. I'm kind of bored, but a lot of meteorologists are, but we get to enjoy nice weather. And you can see the West Coast is busy. They had real decent Rocky Mountain snow over the weekend. So if business travel perhaps to Vegas or out west anywhere, you're going to fly over the Rocky Mountains, you're going to see the snow caps. I mean, they've got good snow on the Rockies right now. And there's this little cutoff low. That's a good reason for some of the snow that they've had outside of the system that just passed last week. But everything's going up and around us. Our next storm system here is this. It's this weak kind of cutoff low heading through Colorado right now. This will bring us a slight chance of rain. There's not a lot of moisture with it, and there's not going to be when it goes by. I'll show you that here in a second. So here comes that system. Tomorrow looks good. We'll have increasing high clouds throughout the day. But we're still warm. I mean, we're talking 70s again tomorrow. Just another stellar day, a decent breeze out of the southwest. Here comes this system in here on Tuesday, and you can see, I mean, there's not much with this. There's just a couple leftover showers. There's a wind shift on the backside. That's going to be the thing you notice a little bit more than anything else is the temperature drop behind this. But nothing crazy. Just a few passing showers possible as we go into latter half of the day Tuesday into Tuesday night. All right, and then that system's out of here. We'll go a little bit longer term than that with this model. Here's our Euro. Euro shows that system fades as it comes in. Again, just a few leftover showers with it as it moves through Tuesday night. And then once that goes through, it's going to kind of reattach itself to a front that's coming out of Canada. This front's going to have a little bit of wind with it. It's also going to drive some colder air into the U.S., Great Lakes more specifically. But it's not really anything too crazy. It's kind of like what we just went through earlier last week. And so you can see by Wednesday, we're turning cooler. We're not going to have a lot of moisture with it, so I'm not anticipating lake effect rain with this one. But it just drags some cooler air in. By Wednesday night into Thursday, we've got a big old high pressure building in, so more beautiful weather to end the week. And then you can see on into the weekend, we're tracking another little short wave. And it's interesting, this just showed up in the models yesterday, and it's kind of still in there today. And so this will be our next shot at rain later this week. And it looks to be a brief shot at rain sometime Thursday night into Friday as of right now. And it looks to bring us some rain. I would say, I'm going to nix the thunder chance on that. I think it's just some showers at this point. But that would go Thursday night into Friday, and then we clear things out for the weekend. All right, here's your weekend. Looks good. But kind of what we're doing here over the next week is we've got these little areas of energy that are just attached to kind of the southern periphery of the jet stream up in Canada. And so what that means for us, it's kind of like that winter pattern when we get Alberta Clipper systems, where it's little quick hits of rain and clouds, a little bit of wind, and then that's it. No major systems, no major temperature swings outside of a little temperature drop this week. Pretty quiet weather continues. And then on into next week, you can see, another quick system dives through, and then we're quiet for a few days. And all indication is as we get closer to Halloween, there's going to be a bigger ridge that establishes itself in the eastern U.S. And that would give us a fairly warm couple days leading up to Halloween and Halloween itself. This Euro model in particular goes through October 30th. And you can see we've got this strong southwest flow that sets up several days prior. We've got southwest wind Monday, the 28th, Tuesday, the 29th, and then by Wednesday, still a strong southwest flow. So that warms us up, probably 70s. But the Euro, as of right now, is hinting at some kind of storm system starting to emerge and come together as we go into the 30th and maybe Halloween itself. So it looks like we're looking at a mild Halloween, but we may be looking at a wet Halloween, depending on how this system comes together. All right. A lot of folks trick-or-treating this weekend, more specifically Saturday. And if you are trick-or-treating on Saturday, it looks great. I see no problems whatsoever. We'll have high pressure in place. It'll be mild. We'll be back to some warmer air again. So not too bad. All right. In terms of cloud cover, I want to show you that because that's really what we're tracking over the next couple of days. Sunshine tomorrow will give way to high clouds. There's your high cloudiness there. The clouds will come in Tuesday. That's our little rain chance we talked about. Wednesday, we're dealing with another kind of frontal boundary that'll bring a period of clouds through here. That brings the cooler temperatures in. So we'll have sun and clouds on Wednesday with more clouds as we bring that front in midday. And then Thursday, beautiful weather. By Thursday night into Friday, we bring in more high clouds as that next system zips in with that rain chance. And then here's your weekend. Saturday looks good with high clouds moving in late day. So with these fast-moving systems, we'll have sunshine, and then you'll have high clouds, a couple hours later, and we'll have intervals of them. And then you can see just some high cloudiness around next week. There's not a lot of period of kind of stagnant cloudy weather around here. Here's what's interesting, and a lot of you are familiar with the National Weather Service page, and I don't use the Weather Service page other than a model. So when I'm looking at the Euro model, and this is for all future meteorologists out there, when I'm looking at the Euro model or the GFS model, I'm coming up with my own forecast. But I'll peek at the Weather Service to see if I'm in line with them or if they're in line with me. Either way. And what's interesting is this is the Weather Service forecast. They have no rain in the forecast this week, and so I see some scattered showers moving through here late Tuesday, as we talked about, or into the midday afternoon Tuesday. They don't have it in here. They think the dry air will shrivel it up, which is interesting, could happen. But then more importantly, they have sunny skies on Friday. and 66. And I have rain on Friday. So big discrepancy in that. So just keep in mind, a lot of the apps that you have on your phone run off the weather services forecasts. All right. And this is what a lot of radio stations and even some TV stations will go off of with their automated forecasts, or what people that aren't meteorologists are reading. So you know, I know a lot of people are making plans this upcoming weekend, and that's why I bring this up. I don't say this to say, hey, they're wrong and I'm right. That's not the case. We don't know yet. But I do have rain in the forecast on Friday with that shortwave coming through. So we'll see. So your app might be saying sunshine right now, and I don't want you to think, you know, hey, Friday is going to be the best day ever, and then we have rain. Okay, so we'll have to keep an eye on that Friday system. But as of right now, I have showers moving through. Okay. All right, long term, let's get into that, and then we'll answer any questions that you guys may have, as always, on a Sunday night. I'm sure you guys have good stuff. You've been asking really good questions recently. But in terms of the jet stream, this kind of shows what the air masses are doing. And I'm going to take this all the way into November. All right. Here's the next couple weeks. This is your warm air. Here's that little plunge of cool that we have. We'll head back into the 50s for a day or so, Wednesday into Thursday. And then you can see the cold air is kind of staying up in Canada, and everything's zonal. Everything's moving from west to east. There's no big undulations until towards the end here. All right. This is that big ridge I talked about that starts to set up right here towards Halloween, the days leading up. All right. This is a pretty decent ridge that starts to establish itself. And watch how we start to get a little bit more troughiness out west. So this would likely spin up some kind of storm system around Halloween. This particular model, which is the GFS, has been all over the place. It had a snowstorm last week on Halloween. It doesn't anymore. But it's got a big low pressure system up in the northern plains, and that would drive a strong cold front through. And then you can see, I mean, that really drives some really cold air into areas of southern Canada. But the overall trend is that we just stay kind of on the warmer side through November 5th, right? That's what the GFS is looking at. That's what a lot of the longer range modeling is looking at. But we can go longer than that. Here's kind of the one I believe right now in terms of temperatures. Mild start to this week. Here's your little cooler air hit that we get on into the end of the week and the weekend. Still super comfortable, nothing crazy. And then it warms us back up with that ridge coming in out ahead of Halloween. So if you can't see the numbers here, this is October 30th at the end. So these are the days leading up to Halloween. Here's your weekend right here. It's got us at 60 and 55. But again, that's going to come with mainly dry weather as it looks right now, with some rain chances around on Friday. We'll have to time out that system. We'll see what happens with it, but that's what I'm looking at right now. But nothing crazy, right? No snow in the forecast. And even the overnight lows aren't bad with some of the added humidity. All right, last thing I want to do, though, is I want to go longer than that. This isn't accurate beyond 15 days, okay? It's just not. But it's interesting to see kind of what it's picking up on in terms of trends, and that's what I look for. So this, I've showed this before. This is the CFS model, which goes out a month, okay? And it kind of shows the flow of air masses. So it picks up on this little cool spell later this week. All right, I agree with that. Keeps us kind of cool through the weekend, but not bad. And then it picks up on this big ridge. This is kind of where I want to pick it up. This is where we saw the Euro and the GFS are saying November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, we've got a big ridge coming up and some kind of storm system around Halloween, right? Here's your storm system. So after that, this fantasy model, which I just want to show, drags in some really cold air, all right? And again, it's not a guarantee, but it's interesting to see what the models are saying is going to happen after we kind of know what's going to happen. We can predict the next 10 days out pretty well in terms of storm systems and patterns, right? Timing of it exactly to the day isn't great out, 9-10 days, but we can see the pattern, all right? And the pattern is that we warm up around Halloween, a big ridge develops. So I'm using this to kind of see what happens after that. And it develops a big low, and it drags in our first shot of real cold air. We're talking 30s for highs. This would probably bring our first snow if this verifies. But this would be November 4th, 5th-ish, okay? And keep in mind, we're talking election day. So as that moves through, it has this warming up again for a while with another shot of some cooler air. But then towards the end here, we have another decent shot there into mid-November, and then the bottom drops out as we go into Thanksgiving week. All right. It's just interesting to see. And I'll keep showing this because I want to see if there's any consistency to this, because I honestly don't look at this every day. But it's picked up on trends like this before where, it picks up on a cold batch or a big shot of Arctic air that comes in at a certain time. So I show this to you just because I'm interested in seeing it, first of all, so I assume you are. But second of all, let's not get too lax with our 70-degree temperatures and sunshine, because there are some changes afoot, and some of the models are picking up on some of that. And we could be in this polar plunge by Thanksgiving, and we're like, man, I wish I took advantage of those days and got outside. All right, so that's kind of where I'm going with that. I want to make sure we take advantage of these days and enjoy fall color and get outside and open up the windows, stuff like that. Okay. All right. Let's answer your questions for you. Thanks again for spending weather time with me on a Sunday night. I really appreciate it. I was really worried at the front of the broadcast. This is something I was talking about when my mic was off. I had both the boys down here, and they're at an age now where they don't listen quite as well as they used to. And so, they were playing with Legos, and sometimes they argue and stuff like that. And, we don't allow that. It's okay to have disagreements, all that stuff. And I'm not going to get into our parenting routine. I feel like we're very good in terms of teaching that stuff. But when I'm doing a broadcast, there's not always a lot of time to, shut them down or talk to them about what's behaving. And I was so panicking at first because they were down here. I said, guys, you got to be quiet if you're going to do that. And when I was doing the intro video, thank goodness Mama called him upstairs because it's bedtime. So this could have gone a lot worse than it did, but it's always interesting, when the kids are down here. So that's that. All right, let's dive into some of your questions, shall we? And then we'll get you on your way tonight. Deb says, I'll take boring. I love that. Ethan's bored as well. He says, come on, Polar Jet. I know it'll be here soon enough, Ethan. Yeah, so Ethan's talking about the GFS signaling a big storm early November. Yeah, it's Ethan, it had that big storm around Halloween. Last week we were looking at it had a rain to snow, like heavy snow event for Halloween, and now it's gone. So we can't trust the GFS. We can't trust the long-term modeling. What we can do is look at it for trends, all right, and just say, okay, it's latching onto an idea of something. And really, it doesn't help us a whole lot to be able to know what's going to happen 20 days from now. Because we work within usually a 7-day time frame in our schedules, right? So let's just focus on this week. We know what this week's going to do, but it's interesting to look at that stuff for sure. Yeah, and Darlene agrees with that. That's interesting view of the long-range model. Yeah, and that's all it is. I don't want anyone to lock into this and say, "Oh, Matt says Thanksgiving is going to be cold." We just don't know that yet. We really don't. JP, I agree with you. Halloween can be really brutal sometimes around here. And we had snow last year around Halloween. So I think rain is okay with that. And we'll see how that system comes together. But all indication is to me, as that high pressure heads off the East Coast, we're going to be bringing some kind of frontal system in because that high pressure can't take up the whole eastern half of the country. So if that's sliding east, we're definitely bringing something in from the west. And the timing seems to be that everything's going to kind of come together around Halloween. So we'll see. Tyler brings up a really good point. Tyler says the lake is running warmer than average by a couple degrees. It's not too crazy. But boy, I mean, that can feed. If we get like this air mass you see here on the modeling for, November 22nd, if we get that in here and our lake's still running, 2, 3, 4 degrees above average, we could get some real decent lake effect. And this, the thing I've noticed about lake effect over the last couple seasons is that we haven't had a pronounced wind or fetch that's lasted for a long time. We get these brief lake effect events last few years, and then they kind of move off. And what I remember as a kid, and I'm not saying this happened all the time, but I remember where we would have 3 or 4 days straight of lake effect snow, and it would be heavy, and it would just keep piling up. It wouldn't end. And what I've noticed is everything's just been kind of progressive over the last few years, where we just haven't had a northwesterly flow for days and days on end. And maybe that's just me as a kid remembering one event, and I think it was like that way every year. But it's just kind of interesting how things have changed. So if we were to get some kind of prolonged event of wind coming across the lake, warmer lake water would mean heavier lake effect snow. All right. Because you'd have more evaporation, you'd have more instability. All right. That's what it would lead to. It doesn't mean we're going to get it. We have to have the right setup for that. But that's where the warm lake water does come in, though, Tyler. So great call on that for sure. Yeah, Ethan, for sure. Teresa, you're welcome. Ethan's saying upper 70s, early November. Yeah, it's insane. We certainly could. I think we could get into the 70s. I don't know about upper. We'll see. But yeah, Debbie asked same question. Debbie, great question about the warmer waters with the lake snow. Yeah, it doesn't mean you'll get more lake effect snow. It just means when it does snow, if you get a proper fester, it could be heavier. It also, for areas like Lake Erie that freezes over, and Lake Michigan to a degree will freeze along the lakeshore. The longer they're warmer, the less chance there is that they're going to freeze over, which keeps the lake effect season going. Lake Erie's lake effect season really, once it freezes over, Lake Erie doesn't produce, it'll produce lake effect snow still because there's evaporation through the ice, but it's not nearly what it is over open waters. And same thing for Lake Michigan. If we start to see some ice cover, especially along the shores, that can kind of weaken lake effect events. So, these warm waters, obviously that's preventing it from getting closer to freezing. And so that could certainly be the case. Yeah, Rich, I do remember that heavy lake effect event in Michigan City. Was that last year? I'm not real good with my years, but I totally remember that event because I think I was forecasting like 8 to 12, and it just kept snowing in Michigan City, and that band just did not stop. And I remember you got those squalls through there. I think we had thunder snow with that as well, and everyone else was like, a couple inches here and there, and then folks in Michigan City are like, like, where's the National Guard, right? We've got 30 plus inches of snow on the ground. Yeah, that's what lake effect can do. But yeah, Rich, I remember that. Yeah, Maxwell, it would. So our record, just for example, our average high today, I think, is 64. So that's really where we should be, in the low 60s, which we'll kind of head back to that later this week. But our record high today, I think, was 84. And so as we get into November, the records slide back into the 70s, like upper 70s. So if we did get into the 80s, it just depends on the day. Some days have warmer records than others by many degrees, but it depends on the day. But yeah, my guess would be if we're in the 80s in November, that's going to be at or above record territory. So that could certainly be the case. But just really interesting. I just find it so fascinating, just the changes in weather, over the last couple of years. I mean, we are warming. There are differences in terms of why we're warming that, everyone debates, and I don't want to debate that, but we have had warmer than average temperatures for much of the year. But how does that, my interest is forecasting, because that's where the challenge is. So my interest is, how does this change our winter, and how does this impact our winter? Is this last 4 or 5 years, is that just an anomaly and we're going to go back to some crazy cold again, or we're going to have blizzards? It's just fascinating to me because there's a lot of it that we don't know. And I like not knowing because it's a challenge to figure it out for sure. JP, how often are we subject to lake effect snow events? JP, anytime we get cold air across the lakes. And so, if you think about it, on average, November, and then especially into December, every cold front that goes through typically brings cold air over the lake. So that's, every 3-4 days we would be subject to lake effect snow. Now, the problem is, or not the problem is, the reason why we don't get lake effect snow every 3 to 4 days is because it's all about fetch of wind, which, we know that from growing up here. But most of the time, the wind after a cold front goes by is coming out of the west. All right. More often than not. All right. And that takes your lake effect and it develops it, but it brings it into Michigan and like Southwest Lower Michigan up towards Grand Rapids, Benton Harbor, all that. So they have many, many more lake effects events than we get here. If there's to get lake effect here in the region, we have to have a northwest wind or a north wind coming in. And not all storm systems that go by bring that kind of wind. A lot of them, again, as I mentioned, are as out of the west. And if it's a westerly wind, you get the lake effect snow up in Michigan, but you don't get it here locally. And so, every 3-4 days, typically, as we go into the latter half of November, then December, even January, we would get something like that. So lake effect is really the first thing that we watch for. But then as we get into December, we start to watch for storm systems. So the deep divers that go down and get that Gulf of Mexico moisture and come up this way. And that's where we have to keep an eye on things, because if we have cold air in place, we're throwing Gulf of Mexico moisture into the picture. And that's where you can get those really heavy snowstorms. And a lot of times those snowstorms, as they go through, will drag cold air over the lake behind it, and you'll get lake effect snow after the snowstorm. So we can get kind of the double whammy here in the region. And that's unique to the region and the Great Lakes, which is kind of cool. We can add snow to our, snowstorm snow. But this fetch right here, like, for example, this is, again, is just modeling, but you can see it's out of the northwest. So we would have lake effect snow from this if this were to materialize. Let's look at the next one. This one right here with the low pressure up in New England, that brings the northwest flow. So we would have lake effect from that as well. This one right here, for example, is more, well, that's northwest too. I guess, yeah, I guess that one's kind of northwest too. This one right here, for example, this is the one early November. This would be more westerly, so we probably wouldn't get lake effect from that. Southwest lower Michigan would. All right. So that's kind of the difference. It all depends on how the low pressure goes by. It depends on where that wind is coming from after it goes by. So kind of interesting there. Yeah, Maxwell, we certainly share that interest, my friend, for sure. Bruce waiting for blizzards. I could use one. I think that'd be a lot of fun as long as everyone stays safe. JP it says, is that more common with Alberta Clippers? Even though they're typically, yeah, for sure, JP. That's a great question. So Alberta Clippers don't have a lot of moisture with it, but all we need is a wind shift and we need cold air behind it. And that's enough to get Lake Michigan going. So yeah, we can have Alberta Clippers that, if they hit us directly, we get a quick 1 to 3 inches, but we typically get that cold shot of air behind it. And that's enough to drive lake effect for sure. Yep. Great call on that. We would, Ethan, would we have to keep an eye on any storm system riding the polar vortex? Yeah, we'd have to keep an eye on that for sure. I don't think we're going to start to mess around with polar vortex till, as we get into December and January. There's the Arctic jet, which is, something that tends to play a role in some of these storm systems too. So we've got to keep our eye on both those things. And my favorite is when, you get polar jet or Arctic jet, and then you get the subtropical jet together, where you've got moisture and warmth on the southern side and it's 70s down to our south. And then you get the real cold air off towards the north, and you're throwing that deep moisture into the storm system. That's when it gets real interesting. So we'll see. Maxwell, you did. That's awesome. Yeah, we had some good water spout weather with that cold air for sure. Yeah, Rich, great advice for everyone. I want everyone to hear this. Don't eat the yellow snow thinking that it's a snow cone. It is not lemon flavored. Great advice, Rich. We'll all stay safe this winter. And Kathleen wants snow. Kathleen, I always want a couple snows and then it can go away, but that's not where we live. So there's that. All right, guys, I don't want to waste any more of your time. So I do appreciate you joining me. I hope this is helpful. Again, my whole wish is that you get something out of this. If you don't, let me know. If there's something you want me to cover that we don't cover on these Sunday night meetings, let me know that too. I'm totally an open book. This is your show, not mine. I just want to make sure, obviously, that you know what's coming your way this week, that when you go to your phone and it says sunny on Friday, that may change. I'm interested to see if everyone changes their forecast for Friday. Anyway, that's what I hope you get out of this, okay? All right, guys, have a wonderful week. We'll be with you on the radio side of things. Just keep that in mind. And then if you're not on regionweather.com, if you have not signed up for the emails every morning, we send those out as well, typically Monday through Friday. Quick little blurb. I type something up in the morning. It goes right to your inbox. It's non-invasive. I don't send junk. We don't sell your info or anything like that. But anyway, regionweather.com, you can sign up for those daily emails as well. Okay. Good time to swallow your saliva wrong.